All right, guys, Jack Spirko back again with another update on the indoor aquaponics project over winter. And yesterday I showed you the basics of how one of these beds are set up, and I'm going to do it again today without the rock on the other side because I set up a second one to make sure that everybody gets it. But this is really, really simple. Down in that pipe, we have a stand-up that sets the level of the water. Here you can see the water. Now you can see I've added water, or I've added rocks, lava rock to the system. A bag of lava rocks, about a half a cubic foot. It took about, for this depth, it took about a bag and a half, so 3/4 of a cubic foot. You probably won't be building a lot of wicking beds out of these. They're pretty shallow. Remember, I'm doing this as an educational project over the winter for you guys. My hope is you guys aren't worried about lights or anything like that, that most of the projects that you guys will be doing are outside or in a greenhouse or something like that. But I have an agenda this year with overwintering tilapia. So instead of just throwing a 100-gallon tank in here, I went ahead and went kind of all out for an educational project. And I'm getting questions like, have you considered catfish? Got catfish in there. Got catfish in my systems over there. Got catfish in my systems over there. We'll have catfish in the system. Yeah, I know. I like tilapia too. We're going to grow out some baby tilapia this winter so they're bigger by the end of next season than the ones were at the end of this season. That's why we're doing this. This is not how we're feeding ourselves. This is how we're educating the YouTube community, just for all of you guys that want to help out. And I'm going to work on today preventing something I call celery disease. What is celery disease? Well, there's some celery growing out of the bed right there. Celery disease is a term I made up. And it's the way a lot of people get stuck. And they want to know every single detail before they take action. So you give them a recipe to make chicken soup, and they don't have any celery, and there's celery in the recipe. So instead of eliminating the celery and just making the soup anyway, they sit around and don't make the soup. When celery is great in chicken soup, but you can make chicken soup without celery. I've seen it done. I've done it myself. I don't prefer it that way, but it will work, and it will be chicken soup, and you'll be able to eat it, and you'll have soup instead of nothing. So I'm getting a lot of questions already on the wicking beds. One guy asked me to draw a diagram of the layers. I refuse to draw a diagram of the layers. I refuse to make something this simple, complex, and give you an excuse for celery disease. So what I'm going to show you is basically the way you should do it, but again, we would normally never do it in a bed this shallow. This is a very shallow wicking bed, and I'm going to do it kind of right, I guess, air quotes around it, right. And I'm going to do it just throw it in there, and you're going to see in this system for a few months, there will be no difference between the two of them. So again, we got water coming in here. It fills the area up. You can see that it's coming up just about to the top of the rocks. It overflows. It comes out down here. This is what's called a continuous flow wicking bed. It means the water is flowing through it at all times, coming off the main pump, controlled by an inline valve. To do this the right way, you really want to have some sort of separation. Now, because it's not that important to me that it actually be done this way, I looked around and said, well, what do you have? And I have some of this. Basically, it's plastic mesh. I think this is for putting over rain gutters, and we bought it for some other reason. So we had this, so it was available. So I cut some of it, and I put it over the rock. And that will keep the dirt from getting down in the rock. Let me tell you something, though. Not very much of that dirt's going to get down in that rock anyway. I've built these before. I've dug them back up. It's amazing how stratified everything gets. It really is. Just like Earth. Imagine that. Okay, now to get it to wick even better, I took a 3-inch net pot. I cut a hole in the mesh, and I put it all the way to the bottom, so there'll be dirt that goes all the way to the bottom, forming a wicking core up into the system. That will bring, fill it in with soil about this deep. What kind of soil will we use? I know I'll get that question. We are using eco scraps, natural and organic potting mix. Do you know why we're using this? Because when I went to Lowe's today, that was the only organic potting mix they had. That is my only requirement, that it be a potting mix so that it wicks well, because I don't want to mix up my own stuff. When I make big beds, I mix my own stuff. I'll show you how to do that this spring when we build a big system outside. But if you're building something simple like this, anything that's organic in a potting mix will work. It does not have to be eco scraps. Do not have celery disease. Please do not do that for me. I will show you a tool I highly recommend you get if you're going to be doing aquaponics. They're very inexpensive. You can get them at Lowe's for about $5. It's basically a narrow-tipped pair of small vice grips. Why? Because when you put a stand-up down in there and people say, you can just reach down there and pull the pipe out and change the depth. Yeah, until you try to do it. It's been in there a while, and you try to pull the pipe out that's down in there, and you feel your left nut dropping lower than your right nut, and it won't come out, and it seems ridiculous. Well, you can reach in there with these because they're small, get them down in your excluder, clamp on, and then you have leverage, and you can pull the pipe out. Or in this case, since all I have is a fitting down there, which I'll show you over there in just a second, you can get down there, grab onto it, and turn it if it locks up, because sometimes you can't turn it, because even though you put it in there loose, things happen over time. Just trust me on that. So I really recommend, if you're going to be in the aquaponics hobbyist world, you get a pair of these. I will put a link in the video notes below to where you can find this thing on Amazon, but I think any hardware store, if you go in and look for one that looks like this, it will work for you. Let's set that down for now. Show you over here, in case anybody missed the episode where I showed how these beds are set up, we will do it one more time. As you can see, I do have a little bit of lava rock in here. That's because it was in my hands and in my way, so I threw it in there. You'll see that the water's red. Oh my God, the world won't. No, it won't. I'm not a big fan of rinsing the lava rock. It goes in the water turns red for a while, then it settles out and clears. I don't care. When I'm building wicking beds, I usually do actually put it in a bucket with holes in the bottom and spray it off a little bit, but I don't really worry about it that much. When I'm building wicking beds, I don't care. So ebb and flow, I'll rinse it. Wicking, I don't care. It's already coming out of there, clear over there. All right, so here's the system again. And we'll go ahead and drain this. And you see, here's what I'm talking about. I just put that in there hand tight, but already it's gotten hard. Man, this is perfect because it proves me right. Let me go get that pair of pliers. So you can imagine now, if that thing binded up like that, and I was trying to make an adjustment with it way down in there with my hand in there with the dirt in it where I can't just pull this out of the way, how that could be a problem. That's why I recommend these. $5, cheap insurance. So, this will be good too. So you can reach inside your pipe and get it like this, and then you have leverage, and then you can do things like turn it, see? And get it unbound. Or if you have a little piece of stand-up pipe in there, which is what you would normally do, you can pull it out. Man, that sucker is bound. It's actually hard to do this behind the camera with one hand. So, by turning it, I can set the height a little higher or lower. We're going to back it out a little bit so it'll be a little easier. So now it's easy to do. Again, normally you put a little piece of stand-up pipe in there, and that would bring the water level higher. But as you can see right there, the water level is about an inch deep. And I'd say the entire depth of this system is maybe 6 inches deep, so I think that's about as shallow as we want to run. So anyway, this pipe acts as an excluder. Notice this one doesn't have any pretty holes in the bottom like the other one. You know why? It doesn't need to. The water will come out the bottom. It's not going to back up and overflow the top and mess things up. It's just not. If you could get water to hold like that, you're better than me. So that does that. That makes sure the water gets all the way to the bottom of the bed. We fill the lava rock that you saw on the other side around the bottom. When we do that, we make sure we have excluders in place for both the downspout and the overflow. They can go in the same one, sure they can. But then it's harder to get your paw in there to make adjustments if you change your mind about the level that you want the water at. What happens if the water level's above the rocks and up into the bottom of the dirt? You know what happens? Nothing. Don't worry about it. What happens if the water level's a little bit below the top of the rocks? It doesn't matter. Lava rock and most rock, in fact, will wick water up to the bottom layer of the soil, especially if you put a penetrator down through it. Again, at this level, with this shallow of a bed, it doesn't matter. We can't mess this up. This guy goes here. When you add your lava rock, use one hand and put your other hand here. If you don't, you will end up digging all the lava rock out because it will knock this off the side and crowd around your overflow, and you'll be sad and unhappy. So don't let that happen. Kind of use some care about this as well. The best way to do it is kind of dump your rock here and then use one hand to hold and the other hand to move rock around until you get everything stable. And once you get the rock to the level you want, put any kind of exclusion layer you want in. Again, I use perlite in my large beds because it's cheap, easy, and simple. You can also use landscape fabric, or you can use something like the mesh over there. Again, this side, I'm going to fill the rock in. I'm going to throw the dirt on top of it. That's it, so that you can see that both of them are going to pretty much work the same way. But that's how you do it. That's how you get it done. Please, as I show you how to do these things, understand what I'm showing you is overriding theory, concepts. I'm not saying do this exactly this way with exactly this product or everybody's going to die. Don't be that person. Don't be the person with celery disease. And by the way, with celery, you know what goes good with celery? It goes good stuffed inside a duck. You guys need to get out of my garage as the Muscovies visit us. Anyway, guys, we will keep the project rolling. And I will be back with you in just a bit, and we will get some dirt in there, and we'll start to see the effects of the wicking. Alright guys, we're back. As you can see, I got the dirt installed into the bed, and those bags right there, it's basically one bag to one of these, less the amount of lava rock that we have in the bottom of them, so it works out pretty good. Anyway, you can see the water is flowing through. It looks a little bit dirty. But I wanted to actually kind of show you, even with not rinsing the lava rock and even just throwing the dirt in there, we'll collect a little bit while I talk about this. And again, you see the water overflowing there. Dirt's nicely wicking. That should give us enough to take a look. I mean, that glass, that jar is pretty dirty. I mean, that water's pretty dead gone clean already. Did have a little bit of a mishap. That bulkhead, when I was messing around with the fittings to show you some of the things I want to show you, got loose on me, and I had to lift it up because I've actually got it bored through this 2x6 right here. And so to get at the bottom of the bulkhead, I had to actually lift and move the bed, but it wasn't hard to do because it's a relatively small bed. But I want to show you a couple different ways you can actually prime your wicking beds and get more water into them than you normally have. Or if you're growing plants that are shallow rooted and you want to kind of give them lots of water at first and then lower the level, you can, because the water can come into the dirt. It's not going to destroy anything or anything like that. One way is simply to have your outspout, you know, long enough that you can do this. And of course, you'd want to probably put like a 90 on it, turn it sideways or something like that, have it in a place where it's going to be a little bit more appropriate. But as you can see, the water's not coming out of there now, and it's filling up above the stand-up down in there. Now, why'd that happen? Well, that happened because this is now setting the level of the water right there. This is now setting the level of the tub versus the stand-up. It's that simple. Wherever the highest hole is, that's the level. Before that starts coming out of there, let's dump it down, and you see it flow pretty good right away. So now we're back to that setting the level. Well, in many situations, your wicking beds will be basically part of a manifold system and a return line. So you won't be able to do that. Now, what you can do is you can fill them up, shut off your inflow, and kind of set your level, turn your inflow off, disconnect them for a while, and make them static wicking beds until you get what you want, and then turn them back on. That's another way to do it. So you make the return line disconnection. Or all you got to do, for instance here, since we don't actually have a stand-up pipe in there, I can just go down in here with my paw, feel around down in there, just pop that little piece of pipe in gently, and you can see what's happened. Water stopped coming out. Well, it's going to start building up until it gets to the top of that pipe. Now, what I can do with that is just wait till that happens. And I know I've brought the water level, instead of about right there where I have it set for full time, to about right there. That's going to help prime this system and get it wet. Once it's primed, it'll wick really good. And I've been playing with this, so you can see it's already doing it. This soil was pretty dry when it came out. But if you look at that, and I moved the lights just so you can see, that's about as perfect as you could ask for. Only your very top is dry here. Let's come around over here while we give this thing time to do its thing. I'll be careful, I'm wearing Crocs, and Crocs and wet concrete do not mix. So this is the other side, and like I said, all I'm going to do is just throw it. So I had the divider and all that good stuff on that side. This side I'm just going to throw the dirt in, and we'll see how it works. You can see this side now functioning exactly the same way. And again, there's a link in the video notes. If this is the first video of mine you found, you can go through the whole playlist. I'm not big on answering questions in the comments that are part of the playlist itself, so go back and look through the whole system, because I've tried to lay all this out so you can do this. And again, remember, I'm not saying to build your system this way indoors. I'm doing this indoors to overwinter tilapia, and I'm using the opportunity to educate you on all the components of an aquaponics system. Ebb and flow bed. We've got a flow-through wicking bed. We got another flow-through wicking bed. We've got rafting we're not using yet, but we could, just using simple foam board insulation. And then we have one version anyway of a static wicking bed. So all this is a flower pot with a bunch of holes drilled in the bottom, a bunch of lava rock, and it's just sitting on some center blocks in the main tank. That's one way to do it. There's a lot of ways to do it. Here's another way you can do that. You can tie into the pump on your system, and of course I had it and now it's gone. I had a float valve out for it. Oh, here it is. So there's a float valve. So we can set a float valve like this, and all this is inside there. There's a, see that there? Wherever you set this becomes a level in your system. So that can set inside one of those big 4-inch pipes there at whatever level you want the water. And you have constant pressure on it. When it floats up, it shuts off. And when it uses the water up, that'll drop down. It'll fill back up. That was, and actually they go this way for them to work. So they come in from the top down. So again, this would go in here like this. And that would set your level, whatever level you set it. Now, I will tell you this. This is why I had to pull that 50-gallon tank out we're using for ebb and flow now. We had that set up as a shallow wicking bed in that system over there. And some students came through and played with it. And what happened was they messed it up and they flooded that bed. That's why I had to drill a hole in it and drain it, as I talked about earlier in the series. So if I ever use one of these again, I would still put an overflow in the system back to whatever overflow you got, so if this gets messed up, you don't flood it out, because that would overflow the sides, floated the perlite out of the thing. We had to just rip the whole thing out, but that's another way you can do a static wicking bed. I probably won't do one of those in here, but sometime in the future we'll build one so I can show you exactly how they work. But all it is a float valve tied into your pump, holds your level, and whenever your level drops, it just fills back up. So instead of running through and cycling, you're just keeping that steady level. It's pretty simple. In the end, it's all the same. You have soil wicking up moisture in a rock bed. Remember, I'm showing you a bunch of different ways to do this. I'm showing you like proper, and I'm showing you just like toss it in there. They're gonna work the same. Don't get celery disease. You can make the soup even if you don't have the celery. We'll catch up with you later with another one. All right, so continuing on, I got the far one full up with dirt. Still got to get the static one full up with dirt, but you can see that this is now running water out of it again. And you can see it's brought that water level up. So if we dig into here, you can see that it now is very, very wet. And this is giving us a good prime. So now that we've got our prime, all I'm going to do is take my little paw down in there, grab onto that pipe, pull that little piece of pipe out, and see that water will drop back down to the level, and now we got a good prime. And if I feel I need to do that for a length of time, let's say I'm starting seeds or something, I want the water level higher, I can just leave it in there till I'm ready to take it away. But I'm good now, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my little piece of pipe and go over the other side, being careful not to bust my butt on this wet floor in these Crocs. I've had people tell me those holes in my Crocs where my dignity comes out, but I don't care, I like them. So I'll stick my paw down in there, and we'll pop that in there. And you can see this is pretty dry right now. Pretty much dusty dry almost. And we'll catch back up with you once we get it primed, and we'll show you how quick this happens. And while I'm working on that, I'll go ahead and get that other one filled in. Alright guys, as you can see, light has failed me. We're not even at 6 o'clock yet. We're in the winter, so we got these shorter days. I do have some light on in here so we can see what's going on. This will be the final video for this episode. Want to show you a couple things. Number one, I know some of y'all were thinking when I showed you that jar, that's pretty dirty looking water. So I went inside, got a clean jelly jar, and so we have a uniform test. Let's take a look at the water. So there's your water out of the tank. And I built this maybe 45 minutes ago. Just threw the lava rock in there, threw the dirt on top of it, did put a separator in it. Let's see what the water looks like that's coming out of it. Because we're back to our normal rate of flow, our normal level, all that good stuff. Let's see what we got. Like I say, it looks about the same to me. It's not all red, not all nasty. I just don't see the point, especially with wicking beds, of spending time rinsing lava rock. Lava rock dust is actually lava sand. People pay lots of money for it. If you want to collect it to use elsewhere, that makes sense. But if you're just worried about it being in the water, it's just part of the entire system. So what we did, you see we got water trickling out here. I guess I got it running a little bit slow. Let's heat it up a little bit. It's hard to do some of this stuff with one hand anyway. That's probably faster than it needs to be running, but it's fine for now. So we got that little piece of pipe in there. And we've been priming it. So let's see what our results of our priming are. This is pretty dusty here at the top. Look at this. So we brought that level way, way up. That's wet now. And so now we're ready to go ahead and cut loose of it. And what I did on this side to get it like that, I'll show you here, because I wanted to show you all different ways you can do this. That piece of pipe, I took a coupler and I chopped it on top of there. So let's say you only wanted to add about 1 inch of height to your water level in a more conventional wicking bed. Just take a coupler for whatever size your stand-up is and put that coupler on there. Most of the couplers, you know, until you get it to like 2-inch range, which I've never done that for a wicking bed, will get you about 1 inch of rise, because you just got to barely set it on there. It doesn't matter if there's a little seepage around it or whatever. We're not doing a high pressure system here. We don't care if it leaks. It's leaking back into the system, right? So all we want to do is just bring that level up. So that brought that level up there. And now we've got that little piece of pipe that we were using on the other side. I'll just reach in there and pull on it. All right. So let me stick that in there nice and lightly. So that's right there about how high we were coming over the system height. So that was bringing the water almost up to the top. So this dirt is good and wet now. It's wet with the system's water. We didn't disturb the surface. Now we've got lots of capillary action bringing water up. And in the next video, I won't touch it. I promise you, I won't mess with the levels. We'll come out and show you where it is. And I'll also show you how we might take something like this. If we were doing, and we might do that on one of these or the other. We might do something like sunflower microgreens. Well, we might keep it like that the entire time till the sunflower sprout. And then we'll pull that out once the roots get down. There's a lot of different reasons we might play with the levels in the wicking beds. And as you start doing your own systems, you'll find reasons I haven't even thought of. Remember, do not get celery disease. Understand the concepts. Go ahead and get started. Play with it and make it work for yourself. But let's check this side. So I've just flooded the water almost to the surface. Again, you can see I brought the water like, what, 1/4 inch from the top. Look at the horrible water, the dirt going down in the tank. Yeah, the fish don't care. So let's see what this has to be nasty, right? Unrinsed lava rock. We've saturated it way up into the dirt. There has to be horrid water coming out of here, right? Let's make sure, I'm not cheating. Looks about the same to me. See that? It's almost like nature knows what it's doing, and all we got to do is embrace it and carry on with it. So that's how far we got today. My next project, and I thought I was going to do it today, and it just ain't going to happen. I need to actually put kind of a similar setup in the front so that I can put another cross piece at the same height here. And I'm going to use some of my 45-watt Kingbo square lights over this main system. I ordered one of these bulbs to see how it would do. And if you can see now, I'm just not happy with the level of coverage it gives. I think these will work really good sitting out over these beds. But for that larger bed, 2 of those 45-watt Kingbos, and I have plenty of them, I'll be able to just throw some strips across the top there, set them over it, boom, it's going to be taken care of. And again, I want you to remember, I'm not saying to do it indoors with all these lights like this. Most of the time, if you're doing lights like this, or lights like that one anyway, you're growing that special herb with the 5 leaves and the little buds on it and stuff like that. We don't do that here because they'll come and ruin our lives if we do it here in Texas so far. Maybe that'll change someday. But what we do is we grow food. And I think this outsider in a greenhouse is the way to go. And I'm just trying to show you how you can keep stringing it out. And my wife came in here today and she said, I'm not exactly pleased with the location, but I like it. And I said, well, it doesn't matter because it's going to go away in spring. She said, why? Why is it going to go away? So, I don't know. When we repurpose it in spring, we might put this at a permanent home. I told her I'm going to have to think real hard to keep myself from using this for another system. And she goes, why don't you just use it for another system? So, you ain't got to encourage me much. Anyway, guys, hope you're enjoying this project. Hope it's opening your mind. Again, I'm not trying to say do it exactly this way. I'm trying to show you how simple it is to use off-the-shelf components to build a system that you can expand and expand and expand and expand until you run out of need. With that, this has been Jack Spirko with another video. Remember, you can check down there in the video notes and find the entire playlist. And check us out at thesurvivalpodcast.com for daily audio podcasts as well for all things self-sufficiency, self-reliance, independence, and liberty.